Right, this is a little helper lecture video for AE1, and it's I'm using a sample essay on the Kulzer article, so I'm going to be really careful not to show too much of the essays because I don't want anyone borrowing, too many ideas or language or whatever. But there are some things that I want to go over with you on these. First of all, I want to talk about the process. So this particular essay, yes, I wrote it, and it absolutely could be better. But for our purposes, we're going to call this essay Bob Sample's essay. I wanted to tell you the process of how I went about writing it so that you understand that there is a process here and it is not one and done. And so while you have already submitted your drafts, it is not too late to go back and use some of these steps as needed. So the first thing that I did is I read the article through once. So this goes for you guys are doing this assignment again, right, after this. So use this process for the next one as well. Read the article through once and mark up for interesting info. You absolutely need to be able to print your article. If you don't, then you need to be able to annotate it somehow on the computer. So read the article through once, mark it up for interesting info. And then with the paper in mind, like I'm writing a paper about this article, what is it that really needs to, what is it that stands out? What is it that needs to be seen? So then I say read the article through a second time, note specific items to be included in the paper, and use different ink to mark it up. So this is one way. When we get to number 4, we'll talk about another step that you can include. But these are the steps right here that I included for this particular essay. So if I minimize here, you can see really quickly what that looks like. The blue ink was the first read where I looked at some really specific things, and the red ink are some, really things that stand out, things that I want to make sure that are included in the paper. You can this is where I say give yourself rules. Like if you want to say, what's the most important thing on the top half of the page? You can do that. There aren't any really rules on this particular annotation. Just whatever needed to be noted is what was noted. Okay, so that takes care of the first 2 steps there. And then I did have this in paper, these next steps, but the custodian threw my papers away. And this is why I couldn't give you the video earlier. I thought the papers would still be here on the Melbourne campus, and they weren't. And it's sort of devastating to me because it was work, right? It's my fault for leaving them in the computer lab, I guess. But anyway, so bear with me here as I just tell you what it is I did. I took plain white paper from the printer, and I took a pen, and I wrote down, I took notes to myself about the article from each page, right? So, for instance, I would have written down something like, if I'm on, I would put P38, and then I might make note of Texas and the Rosa Parks issue and Christopher Columbus. I might have made little notes on my paper about that. I would have noted that it was page 38. And then I would go on and I would write page 39. And then I would, write down some things that I wanted to make sure I came back to page 39 to get for my paper. So that was 4 pages of notes, by the way, that I had on this. All right. Then, from that point on, you consider the full process. What is it that I want my thesis to be? And what do I think my points are going to be, right? Once you have the points, that's where I'm talking about where you could code the points. I didn't on this one necessarily. I made an outline to myself. But you could take a specific highlighter for each point that you were going to cover. And then you go back through the article and you reread to verify, to get the information you want for your points, and then you can draft the essay. All right, so my first draft, again, I'm going to try to be pretty quick with it as I show it to you. Okay, so this is the first draft. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. That was drafted. All right. Don't even have the works cited on it. Imagine that. All right. And what I did from that point is I printed that draft, and I took a pen right here, and I read it aloud, and I went through it, and I'm like, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, right? Once I did that, so those are the papers that got thrown away. My marked up essay and my notes got thrown away. I apologize. I had meant to scan them for you so that you could see them. Okay. Then I went back into the computer version, and I happened to track the changes. So again, I don't want to linger on this too long because I don't want anybody borrowing anything, but I do want to show you what happened then. So this shows you the changes that were made. All right. Lots of different changes. Okay. And then, of course, adding the word cited. Now, I want to point out a few specific things that I want everybody to pay attention to. Again, if you are writing on I only have a handful of people writing on the Kulzer, and I have 0 people writing on Kulzer in my on ground, which is what gave me the idea to go ahead and do this. Notice that I did change I didn't like the title, and so this title that I have now is okay for anybody that wants to use a version of this. You can just say on and put the author's last name, and then the title like that. The only thing you can't do, Education in the Age of Censorship could not be the title of this essay. That's the number one thing you can't do. I also want you to notice how the article title is capitalized, major words are capitalized, and then we have okay, just making sure I'm still recording. Major words are capitalized. They're in quotation marks. The comma comes inside the quotation marks. We have the full name of the author. We have a snapshot of the article. So if you'll go back and read my feedback or watch my feedback on the Jane Sample essay, I'm going to point out the same things. I will say that this particular essay is a bit long. Let me show you here. It's coming in at 1,033 words, so that's a bit long. I wouldn't want it any longer than that from anybody. The assignment says 500 to 800. Some other things that we need to point out. You have to have a position. You have to have opinion that appears in the thesis. You need opinions that appear in the topic sentences. All right, a couple things I want to show you here. Look at this sentence here. She supports this argument by explaining the controversy surrounding critical race theory that emerged in 2022, pointing out that lawmakers in 11 states have used the misunderstood concept of CRT to ban, quote, teaching about racial issues in schools. This is a quote weave. This is specific information, and it is a quote weave from information found on page 37. So we have to put the page number in here. Now, look at the next example. Kulzer posits that in Texas and Florida, an attempt to rewrite history is being made, citing a first-grade social studies book that removed Rosa Parks' race from its story of her, in addition to a fourth-grade text that removed language saying black people were discriminated against. Notice what's happening here. Quoted in Kulzer 38. Now, every time we are saying Kulzer, and the fact that we started this whole essay is about her article, we are citing the author properly throughout. However, we do this a little different because she quoted. This is a quote from her article. She's quoting someone else, and so we need to be clear that these right here are not Kulzer's words, and that's why we put QTD in Kulzer, and that's page 38. Okay. Let me try to come up with a few more. If you have a page range, it looks like this. Notice that it's inside the period. It's the end of the sentence. Okay. We have another one where it was quoted. Let's see. No, there's another one I want to show you. Okay. Here's this one. This is a sentence. Because literature is one way for students to learn about diversity, the removal of the stories of people of color promotes bias. If page 43 was not there, then we would be left wondering if this sentence is Bob Sample's words or if it's the author of the article. Because we are citing a page number, then we are telling the reader these are still the author's words, and that's really important. It always needs to be obvious what are the student's words and what are the words from the article. All right. I will tell you that in this particular one, the Hulser one, I think the article is pretty rough. It's pretty hard to deal with. Bob Sample finds that the information might be, good information, whatever, lots of sources, but there's problems with it, right? So that's the gist of this particular essay. That is the analysis. I want you to also pay attention to the fact that the author is absolutely mentioned in the conclusion, because that's what the essay is about. We are analyzing the article, right? So we have to make sure that we include the topic in the first place, that it lands in the conclusion as well. All right. So again, maybe maybe after we're done with this assignment, I'll share this full thing and explain it a little bit more, and also show you what changed and what didn't. The other thing I want to point out is the citation. I don't understand why so many people turned in the wrong citation. It's literally a copy and paste. But as you are hopefully learning this week in the MLA 4B, our citations have very specific information in a specific order they go in. And so you can see last name, comma, first name, the article in quotation marks with period. There's a period here. There's a period here. We have the periodical is italicized with a comma after it. Volume and number are lowercase, and we separate those by a comma. Then we have the date. When we have more than one page, we have two P's that show that, period, and then the database is italicized, and then we have the URL after that. All right, some last thoughts here as you are revising and peer reviewing and all that. So go back to computer copy and revise, edit, and proofread. That's what happened. Is that paper the greatest paper in the world? No. It could absolutely use some revision, especially the fact that it's over 1,000 words. And then I remind you to reread your final draft aloud. So when you think you are done, you read it aloud. And you go back and check those instructions. Did you follow the instructions of the assignment? What else needs to happen with the essay? Could it be better? And then, of course, make any last changes. I remind you to review A1, A3, the AE1 video, and the AE1 instructions. And you know what? The rubric for this assignment. And then things to remember. This is a concerning one right here. I saw a lot of drafts where it's just summary. You are just relaying what the author has said, and that is a C paper at best because you're not following the instructions. Analysis is not summary. You must use critical thinking and show some level of subjectivity with evidence support. So it's opinion. Opinion is involved, and you support your opinion with the evidence. All right. The thesis shows your position or opinion. P sentences and E sentences show analysis. Also show analysis. There must be specific evidence used in the essay. So do not turn in an essay that does not cite specific information from the article. Okay. And then you must use page numbers. All three articles do have page numbers, so you must use those to cite properly. MLA 4A is your textbook information for that. Add that to this. Just put MLA 4 for both things. All right, I want to draw your attention to the Jane Sample essay again and talk about P, I, and E sentences. Because, of course, writing is a never-ending thing, right? We could just keep on revising, editing, proofreading work. The same is true for this article, or this essay that Jane Sample wrote. So this is the one that you guys reviewed last week. And I want to talk about how we can add in some more explanation. Remember, the idea is that we do not want our readers to have to read between the lines, fill in the blanks. We want to offer our analysis so that they don't have to do that. And I have also noted that whenever we are in agreement with an article, sometimes it is the e-sentences are maybe harder to come by because when we agree, we just think it's obvious and we don't have anything to share. But of course, we can work in some E sentences to make sure that we are being very clear about our feelings about a particular article. So let's look at this one as an example. I'm going to walk through it with you. So Covert's article highlights 2 alarming statistics regarding child poverty. So Jane Sample calls these statistics alarming. That's her opinion, so that's a nice P sentence there. And then we get into the first I sentence. She says, first, she notes the U.S. is a pretty extreme outlier when compared with other Western countries. According to the article, the U.S. ranks 38 out of 40 in this statistic, with even Mexico and Russia doing better. Now here the student can come back and say, put in some sort of E sentence here. All right, so not that this is the greatest sentence in the world, but if we consider this sentence is a P sentence, it is our topic sentence and it tells us what is happening. And then we have some I sentences here. Those are the source sentences. They tell us the information that's coming from the source. Then when the student kind of goes that extra step and explains it, that is your E sentences. We can add something like this. When it comes to the care of children, being at the bottom of this stat is especially concerning. See how that is opinionated, right? So that's an E sentence, all right? Then we have some further I sentences. Covert explains that poverty statistics in the U.S. directly compare to other countries prior to government assistance. So we still have I here, so that's green. But we can see we have a little bit of an I and E mix here, and it's still explanation, so I would call that an E sentence. Then we get back to this one. Second, when compared to other age demographics in the U.S., the issue of child poverty is severely overlooked and underserved. So that is a relaying, what Covert has said. So that might be a little seen as a mixture as well. Covert notes that Social Security and unemployment insurance are both government programs that have helped alleviate adult poverty. When it comes to impeding adult poverty, the U.S. compares to other countries. As Covert explains, the United States simply spends less on a permanent safety net. Covert goes on to explain how damaging child poverty and hunger can be even later in life regarding physical and mental health and education and career prospects. So while those are mostly I sentences, what else can be said here? Perhaps something like this. We have explained how other demographics are better cared for. Then, what is it that we're wanting our reader to take away? This is our opinion. It would make sense to care for the children at least at the same level as other demographics. Furthermore, when children start out with proper care and nutrition, programs to aid them later in life may be needed less. The discrepancy is senseless, right? So we go back. This is a part of revision. Go back, and that paragraph gets a little long, and then maybe you can figure out how to shorten this up here. Go back and figure out where you can include E sentences if you're missing E sentences. There needs to be a nice mix between I and E sentences. So consider everything that we've said today. I've said in this video as you revise your own essay, as you look at your peers' essays. Keep all of these things in mind so that you can have the best essay that you can. All right, thanks.